Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of All Day, All Night, a film that just dropped on Netflix. Now going into this film, I was a bit skeptical because I was thinking this is either going to be a really beautiful, hard-hitting film or it was going to be a boring film that I've seen before. It has some notable people involved in this project, namely Ashton, who played the lead in Moonlight, and is also written by the co-director of Black Panther, Joe Robert Cole. So I thought at face value, this film could be promising. So in essence, the film follows this African-American boy who wants to break the generation of men in his family getting involved in criminal activity and ending up in prison after his son is born. Now the film opens with us finding out how he ended up in prison, and we also see a very dramatic court sequence with the family of Ja'Cory's victims, who ask him why he did what he did. And in the film we eventually learn the reasons why he committed the violent act that put him in prison. Now, in terms of the narrative, as I said in the beginning, I thought this is either going to be a very well done, beautiful, hard-hitting film or a very generic, boring film. And I think it falls within the generic, boring section. It's very much the same old storyline we've seen before. The African American boy, he lives in a bad area, he comes from a poor family, he's got a drug addict, no good father who's violent and encourages him to be violent. A lot of toxic masculinity going on. His teachers don't believe in him, he's not doing well in school, his prospects are low, and it's the kind of thing where with his upbringing it's no surprise that he ended up where he was. There's a lot of society saw him as a criminal. Even when he was trying to live an honest life, there was still society's labels put on him. It tries to be very poetic, but I just couldn't engage with it. I'm not entirely against trauma films. They're not my first pick in terms of watching stuff, but I just feel like the film doesn't really offer enough for you to put yourself through this depressing and traumatic storyline. And on top of that, I'm not really sure if we really get anywhere with this narrative. There was no kind of message or resolution at the end. This whole kind of, he doesn't want his son to end up the same way as him or his father. He's actually in the same prison as his father. I don't think we ever saw a message or a resolution to that. And then the whole thing in terms of finding out why he did that extreme violent act, when it was revealed why he did it or why he agreed to do it, I was just like, for that reason, and I'm not sure if the reason is justified, whether we're meant to be like, okay, I can understand with you on some level why you took it there. I feel like the reason that they have given didn't really make the character any more likable. I struggled to feel sympathy for him. I feel like overall the narrative was pretty basic and generic, and we've seen it before, and I'm not really sure if it was worth putting myself through this depressing, traumatic film. But for those of you who watched it, what do you think? Do you feel like the film was a bit tired, a bit recycled, or do you feel like this was a great story that needs to be told and you could resonate with it? Because, you know, this is the reality for a lot of people, but I'm not sure if the story was necessarily told in the right way or an engaging way. And I think the way that this story was told, a lot of people are going to switch off in terms of the pacing. I think it was just way too long. It was around an hour and 40 minutes, almost 2 hours. It definitely could have been concise down. And I feel like, especially with films dealing with this subject matter, it's just way too much trauma to be dragging out. But for those of you who watched it, what did you guys think of the narrative? I'd be really interested. In terms of the acting, I think everybody did a decent job. I couldn't really fault the acting. I feel like most of the actors did the best that they could with the material. But like I said, I didn't really find any of the characters likable. I struggled to sympathize with any of them. I'm not really sure what. I couldn't really say what I could pin it down to. I think maybe it's mostly just because I couldn't really connect with the story the way that it was told. Production design was decent. I feel like they built the environment well. I think the cinematography was decent, the music was decent, but I think you know what I'm getting at here. For me personally, this just wasn't the film for me. So personally, I'd say if you're not really into kind of traumatic films, or maybe films that are not really dramatically engaging, I'd have to say I wouldn't recommend this film for you, because I feel like even in the action scenes, I wasn't really that hyped for it. I wasn't that excited for it. I really wanted to get into this film and like it, but there was just this disconnect there for me. So I think taking everything into account, I'm going to give this film a 2.5 out of 5. For those of you who haven't watched it, let me know if this was something that you are or were thinking about checking out. And if you have watched it, do let me know what you thought of the film. Did you like it? Did you not? Did you think it was sad? Were you able to connect with it on some level? Do you feel like this is a story that needed to be told? And let me know what you would give it out of 5 as well if you have watched it. And as always, let me know what you thought of my review. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell so you'll know when the next review is dropping. Till next time, guys. Bye!